This one is for my wife. I'll be talking to her a little bit directly in this, but obviously this is a podcast that I'm recording, so it's open for everybody to listen to. But this one is specifically for Kelly Jane. Hi, Kelly Jane. This one is for you for a multitude of reasons. It's probably going to come out around your birthday, and also as a more elaborate way to thank you for what you have done for me along the way. And also to hopefully provide some insights and learnings from other people that have asked us about what goes into your relationship. Why do people see what they see through the TikToks that I make? Well, me thanking you in a very long-winded way, I think is going to be helpful on a handful of levels. One, because it gives me an opportunity to elaborate a bit more as to why I'm so thankful. And two, I think it's going to open up other minds in regards to how people that care for each other can truly, truly, truly actually encourage the people around them to be their best. Because that's what you do. And yes, we're talking about social media here, but obviously it applies to everything in the life that we share together. But especially for what you've done over the past couple of years, I mean, it is legitimate case study of how do you support a spouse, a partner, a husband, a wife to do something that they are passionate about. Make sure that they do not give up and give them the best opportunity to thrive. That's what you've done for me over the past 3-ish years at this point. I can never thank you enough for it because it's led to some of the craziest and most incredible opportunities ever. So let me tell that story and let me explain to people why what you have done is set a new bar for how all this could be handled and how it could be looked at. So let's start with you not letting me give up on this. It was probably fall of 2020. I was maybe 60, 70K deep at this point. And there's one story in particular. I don't remember what the TikTok was, but I specifically remember sitting upstairs in our guest room and trying to keep the curtains closed so that I could do a voiceover. And I was just getting so frustrated with myself, like to a degree that only you see, because I don't really show my frustration outside of small circles. I mean, I'm getting more and more unhinged as the TikToks moved on, but I really don't share this type of frustration very often. And I kept saying out loud how much I thought I sucked at what I was doing. And you specifically, in a moment that I needed it the most, probably, and not that I didn't know how badly I needed it at the moment, but I really think that this would have been an easy point for me to just say, fuck it, I am out. Like, this is stupid. Why am I doing this? Because that's basically what I was saying in the moment. And you came into the guest room and you kneeled down next to me very calmly. And think about how silly this is, too, overall. We're talking about TikTok. It wasn't like I was stressed about some sort of big work presentation. But for some reason, the whole way through, you believed so much in what I was doing, or you saw how much I was enjoying it. There's not a lot of good explanation that would point to why a spouse would be this kind, this thoughtful, and this empowering or encouraging in a moment like this. You could have very easily been like, Tim, this is driving you nuts. You just have to stop doing this. I think 9 out of 10 partners are probably saying something along those lines. Maybe 9 is a high number, but there's not a lot that are going to sit down and try to give some sort of pep talk for something that is a silly, nice to have, that's already eating up time and attention and headspace. And you talked me out of that mental corner that I had painted myself into. That one in particular stands out so much because it was still very early in the overall process, and just a testament to like the genuine encouragement that you want me to have. which is like one of the greatest gifts. When people say, what goes into a great relationship between you and Kelly? First word that usually comes to mind is encouragement, because you genuinely encourage me to just do what is going to make me happy, what I what you think I'm good at, and you didn't let me quit. You never let me quit. In the early stages when it got to 16,000 followers, I remember you would allow me to have these like kind of geeky conversations about, wow, it's at like 5,000 followers. This is kind of crazy. Like, should we do something fun? And then when we got to 16,000, you were willing to drop me off. This was in the middle of the, first wave of the pandemic. So summer of 2020, you were willing to drop me off at Madison Square Garden because it had just reached the amount of people that it would take to fill Madison Square Garden, and then let me walk up from there. But the fact that you always kept me in line, like, and never let me go too far into this space, so to speak. Like, you did an amazing job of balancing what was too much, but also what might not be enough, like where you wouldn't let me get or feel small in a lot of ways. And the fact that you were like, yeah, no, that's a cool idea. Yeah, you should go to like, again, so easy for most people, partners, spouses, etc., to be like, that's kind of goofy. What are you gonna go? So what are you gonna go say in front of Madison Square Garden? But no, you were like, should we do a giveaway? How can I help with that? What are their ideas in this space? When you can encourage a partner, friend, whomever this way, they're gonna be happier, and then they're gonna show up more for you in return. That was the gift that Kelly Jane has given to me throughout all of this. One story in particular that I think is the most interesting for people to wrap their heads around in regards to what it takes to get somebody to A, show such a high level of trust, but B, to get them to be in a position where things can really start to happen and snowball. So I came across a creator named Eli Rallo, and most people might know her still as The Jar. She started doing these crazy trail mix um, TikToks back in the day, and would just mix up like what I thought was a super random collection of stuff. I've never seen somebody put like Swedish Fish and Chex Mix and Skittles. It was like a combination of candy. It was like gluten free, but it was a combination of candy and sweet and savory stuff. Like, it was all over the map. And so Eli had reached out and asked me to be on her podcast. And I'd certainly seen her pop up before, but didn't know an exorbitant amount about what she was doing. And I continued to say yes to basically I need to get better at this, but I continued to say yes to just about every request. But I remember in particular being like, oh yeah, this is great. Like, once I started to digest Eli's content, I'm like, she's obviously really smart. I can see where she is very helpful to her audience. And just as an interesting backstory, this is a no-brainer, 100% yes. And I believe at first we had set it up so that it would be, I think it was supposed to be like a virtual podcast recording. And then she had an opportunity to have a podcast studio be host for it. Keep in mind, for those listening to the story, I'm a 45-year-old dude, 45-year-old married dude. Eli is mid-20s, female. It's just kind of goofy to begin with. I think most people would find it kind of goofy to begin with that a 45-year-old married dude would be like going on a podcast with a 20-something-year-old female. Like, there's just enough kind of in that in and of itself that it'd be like, okay, that's a bit weird, but sure, whatever. So I remember when the opportunity to do the podcast at the studio popped up, I called Kelly. I always make sure that if there's opportunities for Kelly to just be involved in general, that the invite is always there. But I remember calling Kelly up and being like, hey, are you cool if I go down and I do this from the studio? Just didn't want to to seem weird that I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this thing virtually. And then all of a sudden you see a recording and I'm sitting there in the studio with her. Because again, 45-year-old married dude going on a podcast with a 20-something-year-old female. There's just enough there that if you're not like kind of sensitive to the larger conversation, that you could, it could just look bad, or there could be something from a perception perspective that just makes it awkward enough. Kelly's like, no. She's like, why are you telling me this? Like, yeah, no, go do it in the studio. That's fine. It's like, okay, just covering the bases. Come home, tell her about the podcast. Great conversation. She had super smart questions, really enjoyed it, etc. She's got a book deal and she's writing a book. Like, I want to learn more about that. Okay. Hey, are you cool if we have her over for dinner sometime? And Kelly's been so kind about having our house open to, what I'm sure at times has felt like a revolving door of creator friends that, there's a lot of our, friends that we have known for years and years and years that we don't see enough. And I'm like, hey, can this whole other world start, a rotation of coming over for fish taco night? So the fact that she's been down for that, but then going back specifically to the Eli story, hey, I really want to pick her brain more about book, and she's super cool. I think you're really going to enjoy the conversation. Like, you cool if we invite her over for dinner? Kelly says yes. If Kelly was not as open and trusting, as encouraging as she is, none of the last 5 minutes of the story is going to happen. There's going to be this awkwardness that pops up that's like, why would you go on a podcast with a 25-year-old girl? Why would you do blah, 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 blah? Like, that is such an easy and understandable angle to take. But she didn't let me quit when I really wanted to quit, or I was just beating the crap out of myself for either good reason or bad reason. And then the fact that she would be open and trusting and understanding that it made sense for me to go on the podcast and have the conversation, to then invite her over to our house for dinner, to spend more time, to have a conversation, to learn about what was going into her book deal and what she was doing. Like, that's, again, from what I see, a little unprecedented. I see a lot of people that are struggling in relationships just with some like the basics across the board, let alone to get to that level of like trust in all of this that I'm describing, let alone to then like extend yourself and allow for a dinner like that to happen, allow for the conversation, allow for it to not be awkward, that all of these things are happening, and some of them are happening with dynamics around it that would make a lot of married people or people in relationships just uncomfortable in general. But Kelly's just trusted and wanted me to thrive. And all of that, what I just described relative to Eli, aka the jar, and the podcast and the conversations, and the fact that that allowed me to feel more comfortable to engage more with Eli's content and become more familiar to her audience, all of that helped get to a point where I signed with a literary agent to sign myself up to write the proposal for a book that'll get shopped around. And it's because of that conversation with Eli, because I signed with the same literary agent that she signed with. You go back to the beginning of this, and any of the type of uncomfort or discomfort, I should say, or lack of understanding or lack of trust, and none of that is happening. And it is all a full-on domino effect. And it is all because Kelly Jane is the greatest thing that ever happened to me. Because it fits so well together that we can have that conversations, and she'll see where I'm feeling uncomfortable about something. And she's said to me specifically sometimes too, like, I want you to feel less and less uncomfortable talking about these things or these people or expressing yourself the way that I know you need to express yourself in this space. And this isn't my full-time job, not even close. This is all side hustle stuff. And she's saying this. And in a lot of cases, I'm wanting to say it out loud just then, like, almost why to a certain extent, babe? It would have been so easy and understandable, and this could have all been left on the side of the road a long, long time ago. But more so than anybody that I could ever list in the space, it's only here and it's alive because of you. I also need to mention Kelly's mom because I think that the support and some of the overall core basics of what I'm describing comes from obviously how she was raised. This is so super cute, and I hope that from I wish I was better at doing super simple little TikToks. Like, I was going to say snarky or pithy TikToks, but this is neither snarky nor pithy, but like just the little ones that can tug on a heartstring with like in a 10-second loop. I don't have that capability. I'm obviously more long-winded. I do what I do, but I wish I could get this one to come to life this way. Kelly's mom, hi Donna, if she ever hears this, she was again another like just source of encouragement along the way. Think how goofy it would be for like your mother-in-law to be along for this journey too. She and Kelly play Wordle every day. Kelly's parents live in Oregon, doesn't see him very often, in person that is, and they play Wordle every day. For the past God knows how long, when Donna would send Kelly, here's what I got for Wordle of the day, she would also include in that text message what follower count I was at. And this goes back hundreds of thousands of followers. Because she was that engaged and that supportive to be like, hey, I got Wordle today in the second try, 597.3. Flash forward several months, same text message thread, all the way up to 1 million. It is so cute, and especially if you've ever, anybody that's listening that might actually know my mother-in-law, Donna, and can think of her face and can think of just like who she is as a human being, it probably makes a ton of sense. But overall, I just think that that's one of the cutest things ever, that my mother-in-law was like that engaged and that encouraging from her own angle, that she would be that excited to see the numbers continue to climb up, that she actually wanted to track it and then share it with Kelly every single morning throughout this entire journey. And again, with this all not being my real job, like, if nothing else, it's kind of no wonder that I should have been in a position to make this successful, because with all the encouragement and kindness around me, like, how could I not? So Kelly's encouragement stemming from the car rides into the city during the pandemic, and the fact that when it would get to numbers like 16,000, 18,000, she was like, yeah, cool. No, what can we do for a giveaway? How can I help? Yes, I'll let you out of Madison Square Garden. To start to understand the people that I might be surrounded with and how I could learn from them, going back to the previous episode of how do you learn from everyone all the time? The fact that she would be willing to, obviously she's been more than an active participant. Kelly, you get so much credit for how amazing you are on camera. You are so much better on camera than I am. When you know that I'm going to look to get a clip, you do this incredible job, and it's obviously something that carries through. And it's obviously not just me saying it, because people put this in the comments. People ask for your POVs all the time. Like, you just full on glow through the camera. And the fact that you're open to this basically all the time, because I've made one almost every single day for a long ass time now. And you are just an active, positive participant that just knows how to show up in these moments too, that make a massive difference. So put aside the jar story, put aside dropping me off at Madison Square Garden, put aside not letting me quit when I wanted to quit. The fact that you have shown up literally with your face and being able to radiate how beautiful you are through the camera because you know how I'm going to use it and you trust me for how I'm going to use it. Like that in and of itself, just that one ingredient alone is nuts. Think of how easy it would be yet again. Like, I think this is the third major point now of how easy it would be for just about anybody else in some sort of relationship to be like, yo, can you just not record me eating sushi or taco night again? Like, please. So easy. And your days are stressful, babe. You do everything. You do everything. You run a small business. You've got your own training for the remarkable running that you have done over your running career. You train other people at your gym on an individual basis. You train other people online for running. You pick up Evelyn every single day from school. You do her homework with her. You run the Red Hook Runaways, which is a kids running club that Kelly started and coaches for, I think this is year 3. And every night I come home, there's dinner. That's fucking crazy. So just like having the world set up the way that it is, just so from a quote unquote work-life balance that we both do what we do is remarkable. For you to then lean in on the details of what is happening in the social space, how you can help me, how you can help make sure that I not quit, to have the comfort and the trust and the awareness that developing a relationship with someone like the Jar from a content creator's perspective can then lead to a place where there's an introduction made that can lead to signing with a literary agent because of your trust and because of the fact that you were comfortable and encouraging and just wanted me to be able to shine. And then really the icing on the cake is, and I made this TikTok, but I got to tell you a little bit about the story, is kind of the closing piece to this, because I could make a super long podcast about all the things that Kelly does for me. I will never be able to share, nor do I feel comfortable putting the list names of people that showed up in a congratulations on hitting million video that Kelly put together for me. But if you saw the TikTok, you know what I'm talking about. As I got within 200 away from, and I think I still have the text message that she wrote, because I was like, I kind of want to know exactly what you put so that as I try to tell the story, I at least have the context. When I think it was the Friday that it hit, she said she reached out to a handful of folks that she knows I really respect and appreciate and that I've talked about, some of them ad nauseum, probably more than she would have liked for me to talk about. She said, hi. She sent 20 some odd creators in the space a DM on Instagram. I think a lot of them do not follow her back. I don't even know if she had followed all of them until this. Hi, Tim is 200 away from 1 million on TikTok. Any chance you can send me a quick video to say congrats? Thought it'd be sweet if the people he looked up to on social wished him well. So the fact that she had the thought to do that and then actually did it is incredible in and of itself. And she could have just said, hey, I tried to do this and nobody responded. She got 17, 18 responses. When I tell you the lineup of people that showed up in that video, and you can see it in my face in that TikTok, the lineup of people that she got was absolutely bonkers. A couple in particular that I turned to Kelly and was like, you have to be fucking kidding me. Like, I cannot believe you got this person to show up and do this. And then she not only did all these things, she then sat upstairs with Evelyn and edited it together. And she had this to give Kelly a shitload of credit in regards to her sense of humor and just how amazing her mind works from parenting all the way up to how much she can make me laugh and how our two souls from a creative and comedic perspective are so deeply intertwined. There's a scene in The Simpsons. It was The Simpsons from back in the 90s where Homer is editing together like home movies of Flanders or something that he had stolen or like was taking weird clips of him when Flanders wasn't paying attention. And he's trying to edit it together with Lisa, and he's going through like the shot list in his mind, and he's basically saying that he wants that there's going to be a star wipe that goes to all of them, which is basically like when a shape the size of a star like cuts to or from something. If you saw it, you'd know exactly what I'm talking about. And the scene from The Simpsons is kind of hilarious. She wanted that to be the opening scene, but she couldn't figure out how to get that downloaded. But she still took these 17, 18 clips and put together a 6.5 minute, well, I guess I'll call it a TikTok or home movie of all of these creators saying congratulations. So she had the thought, actually acted on it, because how many people have the thought but you don't actually act on it, then took the time to make sure that I had no idea that this was happening. And I say take the time because you have to download it, get it to a computer, and then delete it from the deleted files because we share iCloud everything. And then edit it together, and she did a really sweet like intro and outro with her and Evelyn. And in a lot of cases too, I know that she was like, some of the people that were on the list probably didn't fully understand like why I had spoken so highly of them or why they were on my top creator list. And again, if you saw it, you know how impactful that was. Kelly, you never let me quit, and sometimes I still don't know why. It would be so easy. This is not my job. This is the weirdest thing for me to have picked up in my mid-40s. You've trusted me with this whole new world of people that have come into our lives. You've believed in where the popcorn trail could potentially lead. In a lot of cases where I didn't even see where it could potentially lead, you saw it. You've shown up on camera time and time and time again, day after day after day after day. Why? Because that's just who you are. And that's probably the best part of that single point, is that people get to see exactly who you are because you are that full of life and you are that full of just positivity. And as much as people think that can be annoyingly positive at times, Kelly sings around the house a lot, like a lot. I wish if I did more like raw audio, I think everyone would hear Kelly singing a tremendous amount. And then she'll like do this little giggle at the end of when she's singing, and it's the cutest thing. And people get to at least see a part of that. You encourage, you share yourself through part of the journey. You allow us to be self-deprecating. You have trust in these relationships that I'm building. You see where things are going. You never let me give up. And you help balance all of this on top of all the other shit we already had going on. Babe, you have to belong. I have a hard time believing that there is a long, long, long list of partners, spouses, best friends, whatever, that would be this supportive. I swear to God, you are breaking records by doing this. And I hope that I did at least a half-decent job of articulating how much it has meant, and that if there's one person that hears this and is like, my boyfriend, girlfriend, partner, spouse, whomever is trying to do this thing, and they hear this podcast, me talking about how much you have helped me, and then they in turn have a different perspective of how they could help their partner. Encouragement is one of the top things. I want to say the number one, but I try to not make things absolute statements. Encouragement is one of the absolutely most important things that you can bring to a relationship for anybody in any circumstance. Because that means if you are truly encouraging them, you are okay with the fact that they are taking time away to do things that are important to them. When you're encouraging somebody, you're saying, yes, it's okay that during snack hour, you're going to sit in the other room. When we would usually watch our TV time for a normal couple, it's okay that you get up and you go in the other room because you need to work or make content. Or, yes, I'm going to help make sure that the house is quiet so that you can do a voiceover this afternoon because you've been on a roll. Don't miss a day. Encouragement will lead to all of those things, but there's so much giving and encouragement. You need to give up energy and time and your own comfort zone relative to how much you trust. Kelly Jane gives me all of that, probably 10 times more than I actually deserve in a lot of cases. I'm not sitting here right now in my basement having this conversation even close, if it wasn't for Kelly Jane. Babe, you are my best friend. You are my number one source of inspiration across the board. Your encouragement is the greatest gift that I could have ever received. Doesn't matter if I've ever made a single piece of content. Your encouragement is the greatest gift I could have ever received in this world. I think this is probably going to drop sometime around your birthday, so happy birthday. I hope this made sense because you know my notes are terrible for these. And I hope I at least did it some semblance of justice. I never really could because it's such a longer story. Hopefully I'll get to make a movie about this all one day. But I love you more than anything, babe. Thank you for everything you've ever done for me.